So namaste everyone, we'll start. So in the last session, if you remember, we were looking at Vishnu Purana. Vishnu Purana, we saw that there are about 6 parts in all in which the Vishnu Purana is divided. We have already seen the first 2 parts and we had started with the third part. So today I hope so that we can complete Vishnu Purana. Let's see. So in part 3 of Vishnu Purana, if you see, it starts with the description of different Manvantaras. I told you there are different Manus depending on the time period. For us now it is currently the Vaivaswata Manu. Then next part we saw the division of the Vedas that is being done, and it is said that different Vyasas have divided the Vedas about 28 times till date. And it started with Brahma, then Prajapati, then Shukracharya, Brihaspati and so on. And then currently we have different now who is this Vedavyasa? Is this Mrityu is the 6th Vedavyasa, Indra is the 7th Vedavyasa, Vasishta, Saraswat and so on. So Vedavyasa, as I told you, is not the name of one person, it is the title that is given. So one who you can say divides, or one who compiles the Vedas together, or one who has composed the Vedas in a structured manner in the 4 Vedas, in the form of 4 Vedas, starting with Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharvaveda. That is how the one who is responsible for the structuring, that person who does this, it's a title called Vedavyasa. Further now, today we start with the chapter 4, part 3 Vishnu Purana, wherein about each of the Vedas, how the branches of different Vedas were expanded, that we start. So chapter 4, part 3 Vishnu Purana deals with Rig Veda, expansion of the branches of Rig Veda. So it is said that at the beginning Rig Veda contained all the 4 Vedas. That is, before the Vedas were divided into 4 different sections, Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samaveda and Atharvaveda, there was just one Veda, that is the Rig Veda. Now if you see, all the other Vedas also, Yajurveda, Samaveda and Atharvaveda, have said to have come from the Rig Veda only. So just as earlier, even with regards to the Puranas, we know all the Puranas were about 4 crore verses, or about 1 to 2 crore verses or so, and then further it has been divided into about 4 lakh verses, 18 Puranas, main Puranas, and about you can say a few more, 18 more Upa Puranas, which we had seen in the introductory sessions. So just as this compiling was done, even with regards to the Vedas, Vedavyasa had compiled this. First we had only the Rig Veda, and Rig Veda, it talked mainly about yagas, different sacrifices that we do. It contained information about that. Then here now we know Vishnu Purana is a conversation between Parashara and Maitreya. So here Parashara says that the further this Rig Veda has been compiled or has been divided further by my son Krishna Dvaipayana. So the Veda, the Vyasa that we know today, whom we regard as Veda Vyasa, that is this Krishna Dvaipayana, because he was born in an island, it is said, that is Dvipam, and one who is a bit blackish, black, or you can mainly say Krishnaha mainly. Krishnaha is of dark complexion. So one having a dark complexion, one who was born in an island, that's how the name for Vyasa, the current Vyasa, whom we revere as, or whom we regard as Veda Vyasa, we celebrate Guru Purnima, that is in praise of this Krishna Dvaipayana, who is the son of Parashara. So here Parashara tells Maitreya that my son, who is the 28th Dwapara, during the 28th Dwapara, my son Krishna Dvaipayana, he divided the Rig Veda in 4 different Vedas. So that's what we revere, the same Veda Vyasa today, that is Krishna Dvaipayana. Now accordingly it is said that earlier, before the Vedas were not divided, everyone was interested in learning only one Veda, that is Rig Veda. But then in the course of time it was becoming very difficult. Now everything is just compiled under one tree, it becomes very difficult, right? That is the reason I'll give you a simple example. We have our school textbooks, school or college, whatever textbooks all of us studied. It's not that if say the book contains about 100 pages, it's not that from page 1 till page 100 all the information is just given. No, there are different chapters, different lessons, right? So each chapter, each lesson deals with a particular topic, deals with a particular concept, be it science, maths, English, anything. So it is divided into different chapters. Or even the Gita also, if you take 700 verses in all, it is divided into 18 chapters. Each chapter deals with a particular topic. So when we read it this way, Okay, chapter 1 talks about the dilemma of Arjuna, chapter 2 Sankhya Yoga, chapter 3 Karma Yoga, chapter 4 and so on. So like this, when division is done, it becomes easy for the audience, it becomes easy for the reader to understand. So therefore, with regards to the Vedas also, they felt that the Vedas have to be divided based on the topics that they include. So though all the Vedas have originated from the Rig Veda, this was the place in chapter 4 part 3 Vishnu Purana, we get the reference that the Vedas were divided from the Rig Veda into different parts. So sage Paila, P-A-I-L-A, Paila, he was the first one who had mastered the Rig Veda. Vaishampayana had mastered the Yajurveda. Anyone knows where do we get Vaishampayana's reference?
Vishnu Sahasranam.
Vishnu Sahasranam. Vaishampayanovacha Shrutva Dharmana Sheshena. Those who are familiar, you'll know. Jaimini is known for Samaveda. That's why the shakhas that we have till date, we have the Jaimini Shakha even till date for Samaveda. Is there anyone here who belongs to the Sama Shakha? No? Gents, anyone you would be knowing? No? Okay. So there are a few people, not much, but a few people, mostly everyone, especially you can say the central and south part of India, we belong to the Yajurveda. North Indians, we belong to the Rig Veda usually, and a few of us, we belong to the Samaveda. So this, all of us, we must know this. We must ask the elders in our family, or you must ask our own ancestors, or maybe the priest. Now priest also you can consult, but then in the case of the priest, if he is your family priest, he will know our family roots. Otherwise, they will not tell, they just tell some common shakha that is there. So usually what we must do is we must know our roots, to which that means to know our ancestors for that reason. So if we belong to the Rig Veda, that's why those who do the Sandhya Vandana regularly, men, you know Yajushakha. When you chant the Abhivadanam, in that it comes Yajushakha. So we know that we are all ancestors of Vaishampayana. Those who belong to the Sama Shakha, they are all ancestors of Sage Jaimini. So all our ancestors, all our family roots are so rich that we have originated from that Shakha. That's how family tree keeps building. So coming back, Jaimini was a sage who was responsible for Samaveda, and Sumantu was a sage who was responsible for compiling the Atharva Veda. So these are 4 references that are there. Okay. Further, we see that now the 4 Vedas have been done. Now there is a person, now for all the people who chant the Vedas, we need a priest who has to do all the different pujas that are there. Now we know that Rig Veda talks about different sacrifices, different yagas that should be done, different rituals that should be done. So therefore, all the other 3 Vedas have originated from the Rig Vedas. Therefore, they will also have some other kind of practices. So here, the 4 Vedas, just people were responsible for mastering the 4 Vedas, like Paila mastered Rig Veda, Vaishampayana, Yajurveda and so on. But there should be a priest who rules over all these 4 Vedas. So for the Rig Veda, it was Hota. Rig Veda was Hota. Advaryu was Yajurveda. Udgata, Samaveda, and Brahma, Atharva Veda. So the priest was called, just as now we call a sarpanch we have, right? Or maybe a king, or we say chief minister, we say governor. So that post is given some name. So similarly, the people who do these sacrifices, they are given a name. So the person who does the sacrifice of Rig Veda is called Hota. Next is Advaryu, Yajurveda, Udgata, Samaveda, and Brahma, Atharva Veda. Now this Brahma has got nothing to do with Lord Brahma. The priest of Atharva Veda is just named as Brahma. That's it. Then further coming back to Rig Veda, sage Paila, he divided Rig Veda into 2 divisions. And he taught to 2 of his disciples. They were named as Vashkala and Indra Pramiti. I'm just telling you the names for your reference. Vashkala and Indra Pramiti. Further, this disciple Vashkala divided the Rig Veda into 4 more sub-branches and taught them to his disciples. So thus, this is how the different branches of Rig Veda came in. Just as I told you, the division of Puranas. One Purana, or it was just all the 18 Puranas were together in one text. Vyasa divided into 18 parts. So similarly, the Rig Veda is so vast. So when the original sage Paila, he mastered the entire Rig Veda, taught it to his disciples. His disciples further divided them into many more sub-branches. Then the sub branches also keep on growing, and then we have something called samhitas. Samhita is nothing but the mantras that are chanted during certain rituals. So the mantras that we chant during maybe a marriage ceremony or Upanayana samskara, or even during the Shraddha ceremony, there are mantras that are chanted. So for each of these occasions, there are certain mantras which have to be chanted by the priests. Now mostly it so happens that in olden times what used to happen is even the people also, the normal people also, they used to learn these Vedic mantras. Therefore, though the priest is called at home, people also used to chant along with the priest. But in today's times what happens is that we are not aware of any of these mantras. Even the priest also many times is not aware. So the priest also is, he comes, he chants something and he goes away. But we don't know what mantra is chanting. So here is where if we have at least little knowledge, that doesn't mean that we can master everything, but at least for certain occasions if certain mantras are being chanted, we know the significance of that mantras. So that is the reason knowing these mantras was very, very important. And people in olden times used to study all these mantras. So therefore when the priest chants, they used to also chant along, and there used to be no money making or no shortcuts, such things used to never happen, because even the Yajamana or even the person who is doing the puja, be it a Shraddha or a marriage or anything, he is also aware of the mantra. So the priest cannot cheat in any way. If all the rituals used to be performed properly. But today the problem is, many times you can see the people themselves, they tell that no, do some shortcut and go away, we don't have time. So this is very, very wrong that is being done. And even the priest is also ready. If the person is not interested, why should I put in so much efforts? I'll just go chant a few mantras and go away. It doesn't matter. So this is how we are losing all our treasures, which should not be done. Okay, so further, thus the Rigveda was divided. Further now the branches of Yajurveda, that is explained in chapter 5, part 3. So there, Vaishampayana, we know he had mastered the Yajurveda. He created 27 branches of the Yajurveda and taught it to his disciples. Main was Yajnavalkya. Yajnavalkya was the main disciple. Okay. Further, we see that this Yajnavalkya, now we have a very interesting story behind Yajnavalkya. Yajnavalkya had violated, he had done some violence in his life. It is said that accidentally, he had his nephew sleeping nearby, and accidentally he had tried to kill his nephew. So it was not on purpose, but there was some accident that happened. The nephew was very small, it was a very small baby. So accidentally something happened, he fell, and that's how the nephew was being killed. But then the child has been killed, and for anyone committing a sin is wrong, but a sin committed by a sage, that is still recognized, or you can say that is still seen by everyone, people around. So then he gets a curse, saying that he gets a sin, he has to incur sin, and that's when the curse was being held. All the sages who had assembled there, they cursed, saying that one who has done this sin, he will have to, he's a sinner, he has to incur a lot of sin. So that's where this Vaishampayana, he was very, very, you can say, Vaishampayana, he was a bit proud. He said that, okay, I have committed a sin, that is fine. But then you are insulting. You have insulted me, you have insulted all the Brahmins who have come here. So I will do one thing, is that I will vomit out all the Shrutis of Yajurveda. Now he was a great scholar of Yajurveda. He was taught by Vaishampayana himself. So he vomited these Yajurveda, all the Shrutis that which he had learned. That is all the knowledge. Now this is a bit symbolical. We should not consider it as proper vomit that is there. And it is said that these the vomit that he vomited out all the Shrutis. Now the Vedas are called as Shrutis. Shruti Shravanam, that which is learned by hearing. That's why even till date, now though we have now different publications, Veda books and on all that, still if you see, all the Vedas have been passed through oral tradition. So that's why after one stage, the another, that's how the Vedas keep passing about. So then it is said that all this vomit of Yajnavalkya was being consumed by small birds, and that's how they came to be known as Taittiriya. We have something called Taittiriya Upanishad. Taittiriya Brahmin. So Taittiriya is one shakha of the Yajurveda. So these birds, they came and pecked all this that was there, and all this, the vomit, the Shrutis that were there, and this formed a part of the Yajurveda, that is the Taittiriya. Tittiri. The birds were called as Tittiri. the birds were named. So you can consider small sparrow kind of birds, and they were called as Titiri. That's how one shakha of the Yajurveda was named as Taitiriya Shakha. Even till date, people study the Taitiriya Upanishad, Shikshavali, Anandavali, Brigvali. Some people might be knowing this. So, and the other part of the Yajurveda is Shukla Yajurveda. So Krishna Yajurveda and Shukla Yajurveda. Yajurveda is divided into two parts. In North India especially, people belong to the Shukla Yajurveda. South India especially, people belong to the Krishna Yajurveda. So mainly entire India or people in the Jambu Dvipa belong to the Yajush Shakha mostly. There are a few exceptions who belong to the Rigveda, and a few more belong to the Samaveda. People, we do not belong to the Atharva Veda category, because Atharva Veda is considered to be a modern Veda, or you can say a Veda that has appeared later. So earlier, like even till date, if you check the Bhagavad Gita or if you check the Srimad Bhagavatam, we have everywhere Trayaha Vedaha, Tisraha Vedaha we have. Only reference to 3 Vedas is made. So does that mean that Atharva Veda is not a Veda? In those times, when the Srimad Bhagavatam, when the Gita was there in the Dwapara Yuga, Atharva Veda was not considered to be a Veda, because the topic or the storyline of the Atharva Veda is quite different as compared to the first 3 Vedas. That is because Atharva Veda deals with Ayurveda Shastra, medical science, then a bit of Charaka Samhita, different surgeries, Sushruta Samhita, surgeries, medicine, a bit of black magic. So such things are not included in the first 3 Vedas. Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda talk about mantras that are used in different sacrifices, rituals, then prayers to natural sources around water, air, and so on. Whereas the Yajurveda, whereas the Atharva Veda, because it differs in its story, in its topic, because it deals with black magic, medical science, Ayurveda, Dhanush Shastram, and so on, archery. So therefore, because it is a bit different, its topics are a bit different from the other 3 Vedas, it was not considered to be a part of the Vedas. Of course, today we revere 4 Vedas. We have Atharva Veda. So this a bit of division is told about Yajurveda. Next, chapter 6 deals with the branches of Samaveda. The one who has mastered the Samaveda said was Jaimini, and he divided the Samaveda, his disciples, he taught it to his disciples, and they divided Samaveda into different branches. And further, there was a sage Sumanta. Sumanta was a sage. He taught Atharva Veda to his disciple Kabanda. So as a part of Samaveda's division only, we get some reference to Atharva Veda. Atharva Veda is not mentioned very separately, because I told you in most of our references we don't have Atharva Veda as a part of the 4 Vedas. Therefore, just little reference is given, wherein sage Sumanta is a sage who taught Atharva Veda to his disciple Kabanda. And further, it was also divided into 2 parts. So this is how we see that all the 4 Vedas, they were divided into different parts. Today, of course, we have hardly a few branches that are left in our hands. Earlier, all the Vedas, if you say Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Samaveda, Atharva Veda, they were divided into many branches, and each branch was studied by a particular group of sages, particular group of disciples. Today, hardly we know anything. Even if we know the names of 4 Vedas, that is more than enough. So you see the loss of knowledge that has taken place for centuries together. We had a whole Veda, Rig Veda. Further, it was divided into different parts like Aranyakas, Brahmanas, Samhitas. Aranyakas, it used to be said that mantras that are chanted in the forest, that is during sacrifices. Now, if you take the Ramayana reference and so on, most of the sacrifices are done in the forest. It will not be done in a city, right? So, Aranyaka, so mantras that are to be chanted in the forest. Then Brahmanas, Samhitas. Samhitas are mantras during sacrifices. Brahmanas are also mantras that are chanted during certain rituals. Then the Upanishads. Upanishads is the last part of the Vedas, or they are Vedanta. So each of these Vedas had this. Rig Veda had different Aranyakas, Brahmanas, Samhitas, Upanishads. Yajurveda similarly, Samaveda, Atharva Veda. And in that also there were many sub-branches that are there. Like for example, most famous is Yajurveda, Krishna Shakha, Shukla Shakha. I belong to Krishna Yajurveda. Krishna Yajurveda, Yajushakhe, we chant this. So there it is further divided into 2 parts, Krishna Yajurveda, Shukla Yajurveda. In that again the mantras are different. So like this, there is so much of vast knowledge that is there. We have lost so much of treasures. Today we don't know anything that is there. So this is a sad state of affairs, but at least from our side, if you want to know more about the division of Vedas, you can refer to the Vishnu Purana. Now further, Here we also get some reference that along with this, after the division of the four Vedas, we also get some reference in the same chapter, chapter 6, part 3, Vishnu Purana, about the Puranas. How the Puranas were also divided into 18 parts, and the chronology is mentioned here. Now, what is the chronology here? It starts with Brahma Purana, Padma Purana, Vaishnava Purana, Shaiva Purana, Vaishnava Purana, Vishnu Purana, Shaiva Purana, Shiva Purana, Bhagavata Purana, Narada Purana, Markandeya Purana, Agneya Purana, nothing but Agni Purana, Bhavishya Purana, Brahma Vaivarta Purana, Linga Purana, Varaha Purana, Skanda Purana, Vamana, Kurma it was called Kaurma earlier and now it is Kurma, Matsya, Garuda, Brahmanda. Now why I read out? Because this chronology is followed by Vishnu Purana. Again, as I told you, different Puranas have different chronological orders. We will just follow. It's not that we can say only this is the order that is there. So it is not that, as I told you, most of our knowledge is passed through oral tradition. Therefore, no written records are there. So if we have some written records, we can make out, okay, in so and so period, this Purana has been composed. This Purana has been written by so and so person during this time. Because we don't have these records, we cannot make claims. So what researchers do today is, with the remains or with some manuscripts they find, or somewhere they would have heard in some books like the Puranas itself they take, or some assumptions they make, and thus they declare the date. For example, now if you Google search time period of Brahma Purana, it will give you some date, but how far authentic it is, we cannot make out. Some approx you can consider, that's it. So therefore, the chronology of after which Purana, which is the next Purana, in that there can be a few differences. So the chronology that is mentioned in the Vishnu Purana is what I read it to you right now. Next is, there is some reference about Yamagita. Now what is Yamagita? Nakula of the Pancha Pandavas, Yudhishthira, Bhima, Arjuna, Nakula, Sahadeva. He had once asked a question that everyone dies. He had asked this to Bhishma Pitamaha, and here again Maitreya is asking the same question to Parashara, saying that all people, once they die, they are all controlled by Yamaraja, that is a god of death. Right? So he is the one who decides our death. Today also I can die, or even 100 years later also I can die. That's not in our hands. So then I have heard that, so here Nakula tells Bhishma that I have heard that people commit a lot of sins, people incur a lot of sins, and that's how it is decided whether a person will go to heaven or hell. Right? And Yamaraja, god of death, is the one who controls, who rules over all this. So is there any way that a human being can be free from all this? Free from Yamaraja, free from the god of death? There should be some way, right? Otherwise, if whatever you do good actions or bad actions, if ultimately you're going to incur sins and go to hell, then what is the use? Like, why will anyone then put in some extra efforts at all? Say, okay, anyway, at the end everyone is going to die. Then what is the use? Why should I do some good things? Let me enjoy whatever I have, let me do. Ultimately, you do bad or good, if your end is the same, who will do good things? This is what Nakula asks Bhishmacharya. A very, very practical question. So here Bhishmacharya at that time answers Serin, and what he answers is this Yamagita. Yamagita, just as we chant the Bhagavad Gita, we know only one Gita, Bhagavad Gita. But there are many, many Gitas, Rudra Gita, Yamagita also people do chant. So now you know where Yamagita comes. Chapter 7, Vishnu Purana. Chapter 7, part 3, Vishnu Purana. Not a very common, but if you learn it, it is good. So you can also chant it as a stotra, as we chant the Bhagavad Gita. Now, Yamagita also, now there is so much of confusion. Yamagita is a part of not only Vishnu Purana, it is also a part of Nrsimha Purana, which is one of the Puranas, and it is also a part of Agni Purana. So it is, the total number of verses is, I think, almost 700 verses or so. But here is how, even you have the Yamagita. Some people chant the Yamagita. So that comes in the Vishnu Purana is one reference, also Agni Purana and Nrsimha Purana. Now further we see, so in chapter 7 it talks about Yamagita, wherein Nakula asks Bhishmacharya, what are the things which a human being, how can a human being get free from death or from the noose of Yamaraja? And that's when he answered. So that entire answer is You must remember Lord Vishnu, and one who does that, he will be free from Lord Yamaraja. Now this is as per the reference of Vishnu Purana. The Yama Gita talks about that. Further, chapter number 8 talks about the Varna system. Varna system, or what are the duties of the 4 classes of the society. Lord Krishna also gives reference to this in the Bhagavad Gita. We know the 4 Varnas have been told. Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. Chaturvarnyam Maya Srishtam. Krishna gives a reference. Same reference has been told in the Vishnu Purana also. Now here Maitreya asks a question to Parashara, saying that now it is like a continuation from the previous chapter. Yamagita, Bhishmacharya tells that one who worships Vishnu, one who chants the name of Vishnu, one who does worship to Vishnu, he will be free from the noose of Yamaraja. This is the gist of Yamagita. So now next, Maitreya has a question in his mind. Okay, Nakula asks this question to Bhishmacharya. Bhishmacharya concludes that you worship Vishnu, you will be free from death. But how should I do that? If someone tells you do something, that is fine. But we should know how that should be done, right? So here Maitreya asks Parashara, saying that now you tell me how one should worship Lord Vishnu. That's when Parashara said that there was another king, Sagara. He also had the same question. And what he had asked this question to a sage called Aurva. Aurva, A-U-R-V. Now Aurva is one of the sages who belongs to the Yajushakha. Some people who belong to the Yajurveda, in your Abhivadanam you will be chanting this. Aurva, Jamadagniya, Pancharshaya, Prabharanvita. So people who belong to the Yajurveda, Yajushakha, Aurva is one of our dynasty, one of our ancestors. People who belong to the Yajushakha, you'll know that Aurva, the sage, is one of our ancestors. People who do the Sandhya Vandana, in your Abhivadanam, this Aurva has to come, the name has to come. So so this King Sagara goes to the sage Aurva and asks that, people tell worship Lord Vishnu, worship Lord Vishnu. How should worship be done? That I must know. You please tell that. So therefore, there Aurva tells that you need not do something extraordinary. You need not go out of the way. You need not go to temples every day. You need not spend a lots of money in doing sacrifices. Whether you're a king or a poor man or a common man or a middle man, it doesn't matter. What you have to do is stick to your duties. Whatever are your duties, whatever is your profession, to whatever sect of the society you belong, ensure that you stick to that and do your duties properly. This is only expectations. This is considered by worship. This is considered as worship by Lord Vishnu. Sagara did not understand anything. He was expecting that, now usually what we do is, this is again normal human mentality. We say, for example, you go to some astrologer or you go to some sage, or all of us also, some point of life, or we, even if we ourselves have not gone, we would have heard, right? Or we seen movies and all. When we face a lot of problems, what we do, we go and approach some so-called astrologer or so-called guru or anyone. And then if you go and ask them a question, you expect an immediate solution. Okay, you have this problem, you do one thing. You go to this temple for 1 week, barefoot, you offer this Naivedya every day, or you wear a gold ring on your hand with a red stone on it for so many days, or for so and so you have to tie something on your hand, and so on. I'm just giving you a few examples. So these are the solutions which we expect. That is immediate remedies. Okay, you have this problem, I have this solution for you. Of course, such things now they work or they don't work, I don't know. Let me not make a comment on that. But nothing is magic, right? Okay, I have some problem in life. Let's say, for example, now I'm not happy, or I don't have peace of mind. So I go and ask so and so person, whatever I do, I'm not happy. So he tells that, okay, you tie a black thread on your left hand, everything will be fine. Next question should come to my mind, what has a black thread got to do with my life? Or how will I get peace of mind? Right? This is a question that should come. So here it did not, but this is what human beings, all of us, we expect, right? Okay, I have a problem, you give me a solution. So he says next, and that too if the person says no, you just tie this thread for 10 days, 10 days all your problems will go away. And on the 10th day, if our problems go away, we will believe. If on the 10th day the problem does not go away, we'll go to beat the person, right? So this is because if someone tells, so these are the solutions which human beings we like, right? Someone tells that, okay, you have this problem, I give you this solution, everything will go away. This is what we are happy. But if someone gives an answer like this, like your sage Aurva did, saying that no, you just keep doing your duties properly, everything will be fine. King gets very angry. He was expecting an answer like this immediately. Okay, you tell me to do something, tell me to give 1 lakh gold coins, I'll give you, but you cure my problems. This is what we need. So, but the Aurva, he said, no, this is all not needed. What you have to do is, wherever you belong to, whatever profession you belong to, or whatever class or the society you belong to, you ensure that you do your duties properly without interfering and causing trouble to someone or something else. Sagara says, I'm not understanding what you're saying. You tell me, elaborate properly what you wish to tell. So, here Sagara says that a Brahmana or a person, a learned person, he should do a lot of sacrifices. He should impart whatever he has learned. He should share his knowledge with others. He should study the scriptures properly. And he should try not to hurt anybody. So, these are a Brahmin's duties. A Kshatriya, that is you, O Sagara. Now, because he was addressing the king, he said, you should try to organize these yagas. Now, Brahmin, usually, he will not have so much of funds and money with him to do a sacrifice or to arrange a sacrifice, right? He can come to a sacrifice, chant a few mantras, he can conduct the sacrifice, but he is not responsible for organizing the sacrifice. So you are a king, you are rich enough, you can afford, you will be able to provide all the things that are needed. So you ensure that you do that. That is, you try to organize yagas, plus you should give a lot in donation, you should do a lot of charity, you should ensure that the people, subjects in your kingdom are all happy, all facilities, amenities, everything is being provided. And at the same time, if any enemy attacks from outside, you should be able to fight. So you should be well versed in the use of weapons too. These are your duties of a Kshatriya. A Vaishya should ensure that he earns his livelihood through commerce, that is business, agriculture, animal husbandry. So in those times, animal husbandry, that is cattle rearing, we have Lord Krishna himself doing that. So you belong to this category, so you ensure that you do some business to earn your livelihood. At the same time, you have to also study the scriptures. And you organize yagas, but now even a businessman also, he cannot afford maybe like a king. But through your business circle that you have, you try to bring out donations. That is, you try to spread the word. So from this concept only, we have something called as sponsorship, right? So all the things that we see around today, nothing to be surprised and feel that okay, everything is so modern. We have the same thing that has been mentioned in the Puranas, which Veda Vyasa has mentioned here, that Vaishyas are the one who are responsible to bring about donations. That is nothing but in today's times sponsors. Now it's not that one person we can afford anything, but we need some sponsors, some sponsorship from different people, different organizations to conduct events, right? So that thing, Vaishyas or businessmen, you are responsible to bring that. So Vaishyas, you do this. And ultimately a Shudra, he should try to earn his livelihood through handicrafts or articles that he makes. So mainly you can consider like cottage industries or small scale industries. We have something called the service sector today. All of us now are actually Shudras. We all do some other kind of service, right? You are in a bank or you are in a private company. We have something called the tertiary sector, right? In geography, if you have primary, secondary, tertiary. So all of us are actually Shudras. Shudras wherein we are selling ourselves through our services. Or we boast about saying that I work in so and so company. What does your company do? It provides some service to the customers, right? And you are all part of the service you are providing. We are all service providers. So service providers belong to the Shudra category. And what should a Shudra do now? That is, whenever learned people come in. Now all of us, if you see, though we work in some service sector or so, we will be earning in lakhs and so on. Still, ultimately, we are working under someone, right? That's the reason we have the concept of boss. Until and unless we are the head of a company also, if you are the CEO, that's a different thing. But till the CEO, everyone, and even the CEO also, he will also have some head. So if you see in a company or in a bank or wherever you go, above every person, whatever is your post, even above that you have something, right? So even though I wish that I want to do something, I cannot do that from my own hands. I have to ask the permission of my manager or someone. So the Shudras are people who had this responsibility that they can also involve, they can also give in some donations and so on, but usually they belong to this cottage industries, small scale industries, so they cannot afford to give a lot in donations for sacrifices and everything to happen. So what they can do is, they can maybe collect a group of people, like group donations, you can do that, or maybe you ask permission. Now cottage industries, if you see, people will be working, there will be a group of, like we have those ladies making something, or 10-15 ladies together, they will be working for some small organization. So you can ask your leader and all of you can come and contribute. So you can contribute your services, or one day we will all come and we have these so-called sponsors, right? One day food is from my side, or I offer puja items for different festivals, different pujas that we do in temples or any public functions, we do this, right? okay, for one event or one day, one time, I will offer Annadanam, and so on. So Shudras, you can contribute in this way. So these were the different divisions that was being told, how the different classes of the society should exist. Now, how this is applicable in today's times is that we cannot relate too much to this. The reason being, today we don't have only 4 professions. We have many professions that have developed: teacher, doctor, and today of course we have so many other professions like even a content creator, freelancer, and so on coming up. So therefore we are not able to relate much to these 4 categories, and therefore we feel that okay, everything, we have put all these 4 categories under a caste, and we have regarded it along with religion, and few people belong to the scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, and then that's how discrimination, all other things have started. But none of our Puranas have given reference to anywhere, not in a single place it is mentioned caste. You can, if you want, check for yourself, chapter 8, part 3, Vishnu Purana. You can see the reference. Just the duties of the 4 classes of the society has been mentioned. No word of caste is mentioned. Same thing Krishna also puts in, it's as a part of the Mahabharata, Chaturvarnyam Maya Srishtam. He says, I only have created these 4 classes of the society, or Varna system. So today we human beings have misinterpreted the caste system to a very wrong extent. Till date we are facing so much of things, reservation, this, that, so many issues are there, right, in our country. And then we blame our own scriptures, we blame our culture. India is a country who does all this. Nowhere. Where if someone asks from where this caste system came in, that's because people have interpreted it wrongly. They have interpreted something with religion, Brahmin with religion, Kshatriya with religion, Vaishya and Shudra. But if you see the duties that are mentioned, it's common for everyone. Depending on what we do, depending on our profession, duties have been assigned. Today, as I earlier also we had discussed, today we cannot relate this much because for everything we have a separate ministry. Foreign affairs, it is different. For some tertiary, it is different. For communication, you have a different ministry. In those times, it was not like that. Even in small towns and villages, if you go, they will not have so much of development that is there. But still, all the amenities, all the facilities are needed. So therefore, the society had to be divided into small sections so that it can function properly. So the duties of the 4 classes have been mentioned in the chapter 8, part 3. Next is description of different ashramas. Now there is something called Varanas is different, 4 classes of the society. Ashramas is different stages of life. Now for a human being, roughly we consider about 100 years lifespan. It should be roughly divided into 25. First 25 years student life, next 25 years householder's life, next 25 retirement, and ultimately to go away, or you can say slowly reduce everything. Okay. Further we see that, one second. Yeah. So what are these 4 stages of life? First is Brahmacharya Ashrama. Brahmacharya Ashrama, celibacy. Celibacy, or you can say mainly a student life. Grahastha householder's life. Vanaprastha is slowly you are retiring. That is from all your duties and everything. It is retirement. Again, Vanaprastha is not full retirement. Now, though at the age of 60, all of us officially we retire. It's not that everyone gets settled by the age of 60, or okay, today I've retired, from tomorrow onwards I'm going to give up everything, I'm going to go in the forest. Or in today's times, if you compare, we don't go to a forest, but you give up on all duties. Okay, from today onwards, I'm not going to do anything, I'm not going to spend even 1 penny, I'm just going to sit silently and remember the names of God. We don't do that, right? So just because yesterday I retired, from today I don't have to go to the workplace for 9 hours maybe, but still all my other activities have to be done. Maybe a few things have to be still settled in life. So therefore, Vanaprastha Ashrama is slowly retiring from certain responsibilities. I'll give you a very simple example how we can relate this. We have a grandfather, father, son in a house. Till the age of about 60 or so, the grandfather might be the head of the family, or he is the one maybe who takes care of all expenses, takes care of what things are being done, or maybe the different bills what are coming in, maybe the bank work, everything he takes care. But maybe now the father, his son is there, a grandson is also born. So now slowly his duties have reduced. Now he does not have to take care of his son. Or maybe till the age of about 50 or 55 or so, a father has to think about his son. Or maybe the expenses of his family also the father has to take care. maybe at the age of 55 or 60, once the son starts earning, one responsibility is reduced. Now the son is not dependent on his father. He can take care of himself. So the father's one responsibility has gone away. Okay, now the son can fetch for himself. I don't have to pay for his expenses. But that doesn't mean that the father can give up now. At the age of 50 or 50, let's consider 50. At the age of 50, my son has started working. He can fetch for himself. He can pay his own expenses. But that doesn't mean that the entire house's responsibility I can put on my son. He's not still that settled, right? So it will take some more time. So at the age of 50, we don't retire, but a few responsibilities are going away. Now son, he can take care of himself. Or maybe when a child is in school also, the parents have to maybe ensure that the child studies. But when it goes to college, the child studies by itself. One responsibility has gone away. So I'm giving you this example to relate that in Vanaprastha, this is a thing that happens, that it's not that 100% we give up on everything, but slowly a few responsibilities start going away because life has been settled. So that is Vanaprastha. Sannyasashrama is the last stage. So in earlier times, what used to happen is, first few years we spend at home. After the Upanayana Samskara, child goes to the Gurukula, stays in the house of the Guru. Then at the age of, after he finishes his education, he comes back. Then once he is fit to fetch for himself, he has learnt everything, then he used to be married. Grihastha Ashrama, householder's life, to take care of his wife, children and so on. Life is settled. So Vanaprastha Ashrama, slowly he starts proceeding, starts giving up on his responsibilities, starts handing over everything to his future generations, and ultimately starts retiring from life. Sannyasa Ashrama, ultimately the kings used to go back. That is, they used to retire to the forest, spend their time in remembering God, worshipping and all that, and ultimately one day death comes over. So these were the 4 stages of life that are being told. So here, for everything, there are in detail the duties of Brahmacharya Ashrama, Grihastha Ashrama, Vanaprastha Ashrama and Sannyasa Ashrama has been mentioned. Now what I'll just tell you in short. So in the Brahmacharya Ashrama, from first 5 to 7 years, the child can enjoy at his house. Then the Upanayana Samskara is done. From there, education starts. Then he has to stay in his teacher's house. Today such things are not done, but such things were being practiced earlier. Same, the Gurukula today has been replaced by hostels. That's it. And here celibacy has to be followed very, very strictly. Further, he used to serve his teachers and all that. That's we do Guru Dakshina, we celebrate Teachers' Day and all that. So that has to be done during Brahmacharya Ashrama. Next is Grihastha Ashrama. After completing his education and everything, now next is Grihastha Ashrama. He can find a suitable partner. He or she can find a suitable partner for themselves and get into the family way, beget children, enjoy life. It is said that even in the Purana itself you have a reference that a person should find his partner and make merry. Make merry. Now, what is the meaning of this? How can the Purana say that you make merry? There is nothing wrong if you make merry with your own life partner. It is a problem if you make merry with someone else's life partner, right? So, Grihastha Ashrama, so when people have a doubt saying that how can I enjoy, or do the Puranas, they are so strict, or all our scriptures are so strict, right? Or we have something called only God, or no, only do this, do worship, do go to the temple, speak good to elders, don't talk to a girl, don't talk to a boy. Then how can the scriptures say that, oh, you make merry? There is a certain time for everything. There is a certain duties that have to be followed. Now, for example, in the Brahmacharya Ashrama, it is said that you have to be a celibate. And in the Grihastha Ashrama, it can say that you can enjoy with your own partner. This is where it makes sense. So, there now, but usually people, we do it the other way around, right? Or we do wrong things. That is, when we indulge in some activities with someone else's partner also, that is wrong. But whereas if you go in the family way with your own partner, that is very, very important. So that you can lead a good life, you can beget children, your family has grown. So, getting into the family way or begetting children is not wrong. It is part of one's duties, but by following the rules of Grihastha Ashrama with one's own partner, that is very, very important. So, the point I'm trying to say is, none of our scriptures stop us from doing anything. Like for example, no, the Puranas tell that no, you have to just worship and do everything to God and show devotion. Does that mean that I will stop earning? Or does that mean that okay, I will just sit 24 hours a day, sit in front of God and pray to Him, or go to temples? That is going to be there. No God is going to come and save you. What will you do for eating? I'll not work, I'll not do anything, I'll not study, I'll not earn, I'll not go to work, nothing I'll do. I'll just sit at home, 24 hours, I'll sit and remember God. That's it. Which God is going to come and save? No God will come. So, giving up on our duties is never mentioned. do everything properly, but at the same time follow our scriptures too. Whatever you do. So the essence of all scriptures is, for people, even if we don't believe in something called God, or even we don't believe in something called religion, Indian culture, only one thing, Sanatana Dharma, what it propounds is that do all your duties properly, but follow in a good conduct, in a disciplined way, follow dharma. You have to enjoy, you enjoy. Now at the age of 30, if a person says, no, I'm just thinking what to do, whatever is there, let me stay, whatever I have, let me be satisfied. Person cannot give up on that. At the age of 30 or 35, person has to ensure that he keeps on earning more and more. Only then he can sustain of himself in his retirement life as well as of his family. Whereas the same person at the age of 60 or 70 says, no, I have to find out more ways of keeping on earning. Till 60 you have already earned. You have a time for everything. Now even at the age of 60 or 70, if you are running only behind money, then what is the use? When will you live? When can you use the money that you have earned? If till the end of your life you are just earning money. So earning money is not wrong. I'm just giving you one example of money. Earning money is not wrong, but at the right time period. At the age of 30, 35, you have to run behind money. Then only you can live happily, live comfortably. But at the age of 60, 70 also, if you're doing the same thing, what were you doing at the age of 30 or 35? So, for everything, there is a time period that has been told. Same thing has been mentioned here. At the right time, right things have to be done. That at that time should not be given up. So, therefore, follow all these rules. Life will always be happy. So, this is the description of the 4 Varanas. Further, Vanaprastha-ashrama. Vanaprastha-ashrama, retirement life, that is only when life has been settled, your children have been settled, you can slowly try to go away or take one step back. Doesn't mean that 100% giving up everything, one step back. Same thing Adi Shankaracharya talks about in his Bhaja Govinda. Balastavat krida asaktaha, tarunastavat taruni saktaha, vriddhastavat chinta asaktaha. Even at vriddhaha, even after you become old, chinta asaktaha. You're keeping on worrying about your children, grandchildren, what will happen of my grandchild, what will happen of his child, what will happen of his wife, what will happen of his children. Then what is your son then? He will take care of that. You are worried about your son, till then it is fine. Grandson also you must worry. It's not that we have to give up on the grandson, but at least you can reduce to some extent, so that let the son also take over some responsibilities. So therefore, we must know where to stop. Now I'll give you one thing. I'll just tell you one example. We have this trend going on nowadays, right? Learn to say no, or wherever needed, please say no. Many times, most of us, we cannot say no. Someone comes and tells us something. Usually we say yes. Though it is difficult for us, say yes, I'll do it, don't worry. We say that. But many times, sometimes we have to take some harsh decisions. We have to say no, I cannot do this. So this saying no is similar to this. That is knowing when to stop. We keep on doing things that is on one side, but to know that, okay, from here now I should stop, I should focus on some other things which are important. And finally, sannyasa ashrama, when you just keep doing good things, don't indulge into fights, wars and everything. Try to lead a peaceful life. You have always enjoyed everything. So basically, to develop a feeling of satisfaction and contentment that all these years I've lived a good life, I've seen everything good, whatever I've experienced is good, my family is also good, so everything is good, so let me appreciate. So mainly sannyasa ashrama is like an appreciation towards life. Now further in chapter 10, we have different customs that have been told, starting from the Jata Karma Samskara. Jata Karma all of us do. So what are the different samskaras, different customs that we follow in all our families, right from the time a child is born? All that has been mentioned in chapter 10 Vishnu Purana. Now at the time of childbirth, there are certain duties for a father to be done. What is that? First is the Jata Karma Samskara. What is now, out of these rituals, only a few rituals all of us we follow till date. Now the most common ritual is the when before the child is born, that is during the 6th or 7th month, we do when the child is inside the mother's womb, we have a small ceremony that is done. This is one of the common ceremonies which is done all over India till date, which people do follow. Of course, today we have something called photo shoots and other things to take place. That is one part. But as a ceremony, till date, what is followed is when the child is inside the mother's womb for about 6 or baby shower, as we call, 6th or 7th month. During that time, when the child can hear. Now for that also there is a certain time. You can refer to this in the Shiva Purana. We get this reference when the child starts hearing, its ears have developed. Only then the samskara has to be done. so that the mantras that are chanted the child can hear inside the womb. And from the 6th or 7th month onwards, the mother, as far as possible, or the people around the child, as far as possible, they should not fight, they should not speak anything negative, because during those 3 months it is very very important that the child listens to only positive things. And it is said that whatever things a mother does or she listens to, she indulges herself in, the same thing has an impact on the child. That is the reason sometimes you see some children, they are born with certain abnormalities, right? So usually then the doctor, what he says is, no, maybe when the child was inside your womb, you would have faced something, or you would have met with an accident or something like that. So they, how far valid this is, we don't know, but such declarations are made. Therefore this child is born with some abnormalities. So during the 6th or 7th month, so this is the most common ritual that is done. But we have the first samskara that is told, Jata Karma Samskara, when a newborn child is born in the family, what is done? You have to call a Brahmin couple and feed the couple. So that is the first samskara that it should be done. And also now so much of detail has been mentioned is the couple should face the east direction and be fed. Now usually all at our houses also, gods, we have the small puja room or puja area that should be always east-west facing. So they're in the direction of the sun. So even this couple also, they have to be fed facing the east direction. Then next, on the 10th day after the birth, naming ceremony is carried out. This differs for Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras. So for Kshatriyas usually it is the 12th day, for Vaishyas it is the 13th day. You get this reference in the Ramayana. Rama was named on the 12th day, it is mentioned in the Ramayana because he was a Kshatriya. And in the Krishna Leela stories it is mentioned that Krishna was named on the 13th day because Krishna belonged to the Yadava family. So therefore in that, so certain 1 or 2 days it can go up and down, but usually on the 10th day after a child is born, naming ceremony is done. They have different traditions, different castes that are being followed. Now usually people name their children after gods and deities, but of course that is not a written rule anywhere. You can decide. Today we see people naming meaningless names and so on. So that depends. So whatever meaning, with some meaning you name your child, you must ensure that the name's meaning has some good significance, only then the child should be named. Then further is the Upanayana Samskara, Jata Karma Samskara first, then Namakarana, third is Upanayana Samskara, then the Gurukula, he is sent to the Gurukula. Then further Grihasthashrama, wherein the Lagana Samskara or Kalyana Samskara that is being done. Then so till here it is said that now for here also a few things have been told. So till in the Vishnu Purana chapter 8, till the marriage, the different samskaras are mentioned. We have about 16 samskara, Shodasha samskaraha, out of that only 5 is mentioned here. Jata Karma, Namakarana, Upanayana, and next is Gurukula, you go for Gurukula, and last is Lagna Samskara. Only till here 5 has been mentioned. And certain rules have been mentioned. What is that rule is, whom should one marry? That has also been mentioned here. One should not marry. Now this doesn't happen nowadays, but usually earlier in most of our families you will find that we marry within our family, right? So maybe usually you have something called marriage that takes place between one's aunt and mama, as we call it. It's a mother's brother and the father's sister. So their families usually they marry each other. This is a tradition, not till date, but at least a few years back we see most of our family members following this tradition. That is our aunt's son marries our mother's brother, that's mama's son or daughter, something like that. So this should not be done. So how that should not be done is, it is mentioned that one should not marry in one's own mother's lineage for about 5 generations and for the father's lineage for about 7 generations. This has been mentioned chapter 7 part 3 Vishnu Purana. Reason being, it leads to some abnormalities. What is this abnormalities? That is the reason why we should not marry with our own brothers. We don't marry our own brothers or sisters. Why? Because the blood is the same. So blood relation should not be there. Now if you see all your ancestors, blood is the same. For example, now when I am born, I will have some amount of my mother's blood in me, my mothers and fathers. They will have some amount of their parents' blood. Now, so okay, now anyways, till my mother or father I can understand. But then why should we consider about 5 generations? Will my grandfather's blood be in me? It can be there, we don't know, right? Now my father's and my mother's blood will have some amount of my grandparents' blood. It can be the same blood which has passed through me, we never know that. So, though we say that blood is new for how long, how can you say all this, what nonsense, will the blood stay for 100 years and so on? There is no conclusion, though we feel that this is meaningless, at the same time, there is no 100% reference that this cannot be meaningless, right? So, it can be the same blood also, because our parents are having the blood of our grandparents, our grandparents are having the blood of their parents. So, ultimately, if you see the chain, till us also the same blood can reach. Therefore, it is said that at least we should not marry within our own families. So that is the reason why we have something called the Gotra. We associate Gotra with religion again. You belong to so and so Gotra, or that's how marriages is being done. Usually we must not marry within our own Gotras. People belonging to the same Gotra are actually people belonging to the same family. If you marry within the same family, it leads to again abnormalities because of the same blood. Therefore, people should marry from different Gotras. So, though today we have advanced concepts of love marriage and other things that are taking place, all our ancestors, when they say that, I'm not saying it is 100% right or 100% false. I'm not against or for anything, but all the things that we have followed, be it customs or traditions, be it in the case of arranged marriage and so on too, why someone's Gotra is asked for, or why someone's, and the planetary positions also, why something has been told. It is said that when Sita was returning from Mithila is in today's Nepal, when she was coming to Ayodhya, that is in Uttar Pradesh, it is said that Shaku birds were flying around. Shaku are a kind of birds, and Shaku birds flying around is a very good omen. So she felt that, okay, now I have come to Ayodhya, I have surely married the right person, that is Rama. Now obviously in her case it was a Swayamvara. Her father had kept a condition that whoever breaks the bow will marry. So of course that condition had been filled, but still she experienced some good omens around her. So that is when she believed that Shaku birds are flying about everywhere. So that's why we have something called Shakunam, Shubha Shakunam we say. And the Shakunam has got to do nothing with the Tamil Shakunam. Shakunam in Sanskrit means something which is good. So Shaku, these are good birds. So it can be a Shubha Shakunam. It is a good omen that is being filled. Now this is all Jyotisha Shastra. Now Jyotisha, astrology, though if you believe, we believe, otherwise we don't, but it is a Shastra, it is a science in itself. If we study it properly, we will know. So the point I am trying to say is, all that has been mentioned now in the Puranas, Vishnu Purana, I gave you the reference. If something has been mentioned in detail, there has to be a reason for this. We must not just sit back and argue why something has been told. So there is no meaning to it. That is because you have not studied the Puranas. For something, it has been mentioned in the scriptures. You want to follow, you follow it. There is no compulsion, or you do what you like. But making conclusions that everything is just false, nothing has been told anywhere, that is wrong. So this is a very wrong attitude which people develop. Now further, with this concludes chapter 10 of part 3 Vishnu Purana. So in this chapter mainly what we see is different Varanas, different classes of the society, then what are different samskaras that are to be practiced. The different you can say branches of Vedas has been described here into 4 categories: Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, Atharva Veda. There further division into sub Vedas. Further we see what happens during birth, death, what is the period for that, then what is righteousness, how should dharma be followed, what should be done. Further, on certain days of the month, like for example on Ekadashi or a Shraddha and so on, some different occasions, different pujas we do, what is that, so what should that be done. Then when we do some puja, there are do's and don'ts that are to be followed, that is mentioned in this part 3. So with this today we will conclude. Tomorrow we will look at all this in detail. So mainly this part 3 of Vishnu Purana talks about different rituals, different customs and traditions, which to some extent we are practicing, which we are seeing in today's society. But someone asks that where is the root? We don't know. My ancestors are following, my mother did the same thing, I am doing the same thing. Why am I doing? Where it has been mentioned? We didn't know, now you know. So some of you might be knowing it, but everything has been mentioned in our scriptures. You have the reference in the Vishnu Purana. Anytime you can open and refer to that. So with this, today we will conclude today's session. Om Shuklam Varadaram Vishnum Shashivaranam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadhanam Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashantaye Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurus Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Okay, so we were looking at Vishnu Purana. We were at part 3 in the previous session. So today we will continue with part 3 and hope so that we can conclude with Vishnu Purana today. So yesterday, if you remember, in part 3 of the Vishnu Purana, what we had seen is certain duties that have been prescribed for each Varna of the society, that is Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra, as well as for the different ashramas, that is Brahmacharya ashrama, Grihastha ashrama, Vanaprastha ashrama and Sannyasa ashrama. So based on this, certain duties are prescribed for each of these classes. What are the rules that have to be followed? All that we saw in detail yesterday. I will continue with part 3. So with this, chapter 10 of part 3 ends, wherein different customs and traditions that are followed, starting from the Jata Karma Samskara, that is immediately after a child is born, this samskara is done. So like this till marriage, that is till Kalyana Samskara, Lagna Samskara, we saw the different samskaras that are done. So this has been talked about in chapter 10 part 3 Vishnu Purana. Now further we see in chapter 11 that after all these samskaras are done, next is, now everyone around us tells that we should lead a good life or our behavior should always be good. Now what does this exactly mean? Or we should always follow dharma. Now if you translate dharma into English, it means righteousness, that is good conduct or good behavior. So many times all the different problems that we have to face is, that is because when people say that we do adharma, or when people say that you are on the wrong path, that means our behavior is wrong. Our conduct towards the society, our conduct towards others is wrong. So that is where it leads to adharma. So dharma and adharma have got nothing to do with religion. In fact, Hinduism or Indian culture itself specifies that dharma is nothing but good conduct or righteousness. The opposite of it is adharma. So it has got nothing to do with religion, God, spirituality, etc. But many times problems is because we cannot follow good conduct, because we cannot behave properly. That is the reason why so many problems take place in this society, affecting ourselves as well as others. So now how should dharma be followed? There are certain rules that have been told. Now first it starts with again Grihastha ashrama. Now even simple things like even there are certain rules that have to be followed for all our everyday activities. So it is said that a married man or a Grihastha. Now why here you see reference has been given only to a Grihastha? Because mostly people around in the world are householders. You see very few people who are sannyasis, very few people who are brahmacharis. So most of the population falls in the middle category of a householder. So most of us, we are married. So there are very few who lead a celebrate life, that is a brahmachari's life, or they take up sannyasa. So the most popular, or you can say the most populated community is the Grihasthas, or it's a community of householders. So therefore most of our dharmas have been prescribed for householders. So it is said that married life is like a penance, like a tapasya, in which the couple, both the married couple, both of them, they have to live together, and after getting settled, they also ensure that they try to take their generation ahead. And he is expected to get up early in the morning, follow all his rights, and ensure that both a man as well as a woman. Now, in today's times, of course, we have both the man and the woman working. But in olden times, when only the man was working, ladies are housewives. So be it anything, there have been no rules as such prescribed in the Vishnu Purana that say that only a man should work or only a woman should work, nothing like that. But each of them, they have their own duties. It's not that you have to work doesn't mean that always you have to go out and earn money. It can be any work. You do some household work, or you do a business, or you maybe go actually and work somewhere. It can be anything, but something which is done to support the family, something which is done to contribute to the family. It can be just taking care of the elders, taking care of the children, even that is also duties. So there should be a good understanding between both the man and the woman, and thus the duties have to be performed by both the husband and the wife. Further, it is said that even while attending the nature's call, that is when we use the washrooms, etc., this rule has been mentioned in the Vishnu Purana. It is said that we must, now usually today what happens is that we usually have our washrooms inside the house. But in olden times, people used to have their washrooms, and even today if you go to your villages, you'll see the few houses we have the washrooms on the outskirts of the house, or it will be in the back house, or a bit at a small distance from the house. So whenever we go there, it is said that in natural environment, or now we have washrooms and bathrooms that are built up today, but in earlier times people used to not have a proper washroom as such. So usually if there is an open area, open ground also, people used to go there. It used to be used as a washroom purpose. So the point why it is mentioned is, though it is not much related in today's context, even these rules have been mentioned, saying that even while answering nature's call also, there are certain rules that have to be followed. We must ensure that we go at a far off distance from our house, and at the same time when you come back, always ensure that you wash your hands and feet. Now all these things we consider, or you might feel now why even such things, that too in the Purana like Vishnu Purana, why so much of detail is mentioned. But till date we find so many people, we might wash our hands, but hardly a few people wash their feet. Not everyone knows this. Now here a question will come, how can I wash my feet in a public washroom? There are people, even when we use a public washroom also, they do wash their feet and come. But still, if you have a problem there, you cannot wash your feet in a public washroom. At least at home, all of us we can wash. So it is very, very important to wash our hands and feet both. Hands we do wash, feet most of the times, many people we don't have this habit of washing at all. And why it is said so, why it is specified even in the Puranas. Imagine now what, you use a washroom, someone tells us to wash our hands and feet. For this should I read the Purana, or does the Vishnu Purana talk about such things? But this is a very, very integral part of life, and here is where we lacked, and that's how we had to experience a pandemic 2 years back. All our elders, all the people used to tell wash your hands and feet once you come from outside, we never paid heed. But during the COVID times, immediately before someone telling also, first thing is we used to go and wash our hands and feet. Right? Because a calamity has come in, because there is a lot of hype around it, because now the situation is like that, as soon as I come from outside I have to wash my hands and feet, or we ended up taking a bath and so on. That is because its importance, significance increased. That is because we didn't pay heed to that earlier. When people used to tell normally, when there was no pandemic also, we didn't pay heed. Now what, now I have come, now only what you are telling to wash your hands and feet, I know everything. We argue, right? But today again, now once the pandemic has slowed down a bit, though a few people are still cautious, we don't take things very lightly. We don't take things very seriously. So the point is, in Vishnu Purana again it is mentioned that though these are daily, everyday habits, many times we people forget to do that. And the same thing we are doing till date. That's why we had experienced the pandemic. Now there is a second, you can say, one more significance to this, that place where, like, if we don't wash our feet, or a lot of wealth and gold that we have, it is said that it is the Nivasa Sthanam, or it is a place where Kali Purusha, we are living in the Kali Yuga. So Kali Purusha is the one who causes all kinds of dangers. So on our feet, that is on our back foot, then in gold, wealth, it is said that Kali Purusha resides. That is why whenever we use the washroom or after having food, we must wash our feet, back feet, not only the front foot that is there, because it is said that if we don't wash our feet, it is the Nivasa Sthanam of Kali Purusha. Kali Purusha lives there. So that's how we face different dangers of Kali. So this is one belief to it. Logically speaking, if you think now, whenever we have food, now usually today of course you will have a dining table and so on, but earlier people, we used to sit on the floor and we will have food, right? And whenever we have food, now our hands, they get dirty when we have food, but sometimes we spill food and it does fall on our feet. So in order to clean that, we must wash our feet. Secondly, when using the washroom also, sometimes our feet do get dirty when we use the washroom. So these are certain reasons why the hands and feet have to be also washed thoroughly, that after using the washroom, after having food, after coming from outside and so on. So all this has been mentioned in the Vishnu Purana. So these are all everyday habits, but many times we lack even here. So here again in chapter 11 of part 3 Vishnu Purana it describes all these everyday habits which each one of us we must follow. So again, let me remind you that Vishnu Purana will talk only about Vishnu, only about stories related to gods, only about some information of places and kings. No, even everyday habits are also prescribed, so that tomorrow if anyone reads the Vishnu Purana, he should be able to know everything, the history, geography, as well as everyday habits, something called good manners too. So that is the reason why everything has been mentioned here. Now further, now the next rule is Athithi Devo Bhava. That is when someone comes to our house. Now in olden times again, people we used to have cows in our houses, right? So it is said that now today what we do is, if someone comes to our house, we offer them tea or coffee, right? And the milk that is there, we purchase it from outside. But in earlier times, when we used to have cows at our own houses, it is said that even though you have a man whom you have kept for milking the cow, but still, if an elderly person visits your house, the householder must go, he himself should milk the cow with his hands. I'm sorry, and that milk should be offered to the elderly guest. So these were all different traditions and customs that were being followed. So this just marks as a sign of respect that we have towards the elderly person. Further, it is said that good food should also be provided. Now today's times, what happens is that we just offer them tea, coffee also, and the person goes away, right? Or even when we visit someone else's house also, not always, even the person whom we visit, even they don't offer. Like they say, okay, now someone is coming, if they go fast, it is good. Now why should we offer food and all that? Let it be. We'll offer them something to drink, some snacks also, let them be. And we also usually, when we visit someone else's house, we are in a hurry. So we say, no, I've already eaten and come, my stomach is full and so on. You just give me water to drink, tea, coffee, that will suffice, right? Because today all of us, we are in a hurry. But atithi, and secondly, whenever we have to visit someone's houses, we have to phone them. 10 times we phone them or we message them, tell no, tomorrow I'm going to come, hope you will be at your house, right? And this is something good, it's better to check on. But in earlier times, tithi is muhurta or an appointment, tithi. So people who visit without informing us before, they are actually named as atithi. That is what guests. That is suddenly if people come to our houses, that is what atithi. So even if someone comes to our houses suddenly, all of a sudden without informing, even then food should be available. So that is the reason in villages before, they used to always cook some amount of extra food. So that, and usually in villages, if you see travelers, they used to come during the afternoon time. Just from long distances they used to come, and then they used to also readily ask food, or maybe for some time let me rest at your house. So a place used to be given to rest, and as well as food also used to be offered. So therefore the amount of food, even today if you see most of our grandmothers, great grandmothers, elderly people, if you see, they will always cook large amounts of food. And then usually we'll have a question, there are only 4 people, you're cooking food for 8 people. Today what we do is, we do the other way around. If there are 4 people, we'll cook only for 2 people, and that's okay, we will adjust. Food should not be wasted. Nobody eats, right? And today, on a lighter note, if I tell you, no, nobody eats in my house, hardly. Now, if there are 4 people, I make only 8 chapatis, 2 for each. That's it. Even if one person wants extra, still he should not eat, only 2. That's it. So today, times have changed, but earlier times, even senior ladies and all, if you ask them, or people in villages till date, they will always cook this extra food, saying that if someone comes, we can offer. Today's times, we have assumed that nobody will come. First of all, nobody comes. Secondly, if someone comes all of a sudden also, maybe we want 10 in front of them, but still at the back we do talk, right? No, why? Without informing, suddenly they have come. Is this some way? What if we were not there? What if we are busy? And so on, right? So here, in the Vishnu Purana, again chapter 11, it is mentioned that guests who come, they should always be treated with respect. Now, even though you do not like a particular person, now there are a few members in the family whom we don't like much, right? That doesn't mean that we break ties or we don't have a proper relationship with them. But still, to few people we are close, few people, it's okay. They just come in a family function, wedding also if you meet, it's just hi, bye, that's it. Whereas with few people we are very close. So, whenever an atithi comes, all this attitude has to be kept on one side. Whoever is a person, be it even your enemy, we must serve them properly. So this is a rule that has been mentioned. Then, here now it is said that for good health, we must have food early. Now today, again we have people, we face a lot of these overweight problems, this problem, that problem, and that's when you go and approach a doctor or a dietitian. They tell that have your dinner also before 7 p.m, before 8 p.m. Today we have adopted to all those methods. Same thing has been mentioned in the Vishnu Purana thousands of years back, that early, we must have food early in the evening, and then we must retire, we must go to bed also early. And here, one more rule again, then during the night time, man and woman, they can spend time with each other. Further in chapter 12 now, with this chapter 11 ends. Now chapter 12, so basically chapter 11 talks about duties of a householder, or what should householders do. Now further, what after a birth and death? Now what is the household environment, or what should be done if a birth takes place in a family or if a death takes place in a family? Now all of us, we follow certain rules and customs, but as per the Vishnu Purana also certain rules have been mentioned. What are that? Now for both the occasions, it is said that some rituals are being conducted. that is after a birth of a son also, there are certain pujas, there are certain sacrifices that have to be done at home. And so it is like even when a male child is born, we have the 10 days period, like a death, we have 10 days, we must not do anything. Even when a girl child is born, 3 or 4 days, nothing should be done. So like this, when a death occurs in the family, all the relatives, whether you are directly related to the person, or it is said that even if you don't visit the person physically, usually if a death has taken place in the family, you might maybe on the day of the death, it's not possible for us to visit, but still it is mentioned that if we hear of some death news also, we must go and take a bath. Now this is what has been mentioned. Now how far this is logical, we need not argue into that, saying that why should I take a bath, I have not gone there and so on. Or why people now there are a few people even till date, even if they are present at the place of death, even then they do not come home and take bath. Now, or after, even if you go and visit the crematorium, you don't come and take bath. Now why is all this being done is that whenever we visit a crematorium, that is a smashana bhumi, or a place where a dead body is being kept, now because we are alive, all our body is also being moved, but in the place where a dead body is being kept, or in a crematorium, now in a crematorium, thousands of dead bodies are coming every day, there is a lot of bacteria which is being kept. And even in the place of a dead body, though it is just a few hours, but still the body has started to decay, lot of organisms, lot of bacteria are being present. We are also standing in the same place. We might not know the reaction immediately, but it can lead to the spread of diseases. That is why all our ancestors have advised that immediately. That's the reason why after we finish a hospital also, visit a hospital, we must immediately take a bath. Or you know that when you go inside a hospital room also, usually it is advised that do not, we don't follow such rules much, but it is advised that you must not eat food, or our patient has to do, he has got no option, but drinking water or eating food inside the patient's room should be avoided. You come out and do it is fine, because not only one patient, there are thousands of patients sleeping on the same bed, it leads to infection. So these are reasons why our ancestors have set up all these rules. We take it, we associate it only with religion, saying that all are having blind faith, some death has been taken place, I have to come and take a bath. But there has been a lot of logic behind why such things have been mentioned. So now coming to the question that if some death takes place in some other family, like I have not gone there physically, but then still why should I take a bath? So for this, there is no logical explanation as such. It is said that you have heard some death news in the family, so it does again lead to something very negative. We feel bad, right? How much ever we would be close, or you listen to anyone's death news, we don't feel happy. Oh, good, this person died, I'm very happy. We don't say that, right? So it leads to negative emotions in our body. So when we take a bath also, we feel fresh. So just to freshen up ourselves, that is the reason why it is said that always whenever we listen to a negative news, that is the reason why when we feel very sad also, or when we feel like crying, people tell, right? Or we ourselves, we go and wash our face. Why do we go and wash our face? To feel fresh. That doesn't mean that the sorrow goes away completely, but by washing our face, by putting water, we feel fresh. So that is the reason why after a death, whether you go and visit there physically or you are at home, it is advised that we take a bath. So these are a few references that are mentioned in chapter 11. Further, as per Hinduism, we have to burn the body. That has also been mentioned. Then on the next day, the son has to go and do the Asti Visarjanam. That is, the bones have to be offered on the next day. Why on the next day? Because it takes time for the body to decay and for the bones to come out. And then that has to be offered in the nearby water body. Next, from that day onwards, we have all the different rituals coming in, 10th day, 11th day, 12th day, 13th day and so on, wherein Pindadanam has to be done. Now this is common for people all over India. Pindadanam, rice balls. Now depending on the place where we live, there can be a few differences up and down. For example, rice ball is made, but on top of that, sometimes some people offer jaggery, some people offer black til, some people offer sesame seeds, white and black both, some people offer even honey, some people offer barley. So it depends on the traditions that are there, but usually what is seen most commonly is rice ball, wherein you offer black sesame seeds. That is what, and it is said that as per the Vishnu Purana, this Pindadanam should be done for all the 10 days after death. We don't do this today, we do it only on the 10th day when the priest comes. Now why then it has been mentioned in the Vishnu Purana that you must do it for all 10 days. In earlier times, what used to happen is, when people used to live in small villages also, there used to be a lot of elderly members in the family. And you see, most of these elderly members used to be priests. Like even a few amongst you also, you'll have your grandfathers, great grandfathers who are priests, right? Or we'll have a family priest maybe staying just 2 houses away. So then the priest can come to our house every day and show us how the Pindadanam can be done. Or maybe the elderly grandfather, he can only guide how the Pindadanam should be done. Correct. So, but in today's times now, for everything we don't have a priest who is readily available, nor do we have elders who are priests who can guide us properly. So that is the reason we start our rituals only from the 10th day. That too many people don't do. They say, okay, once in a year I'll go, or once in a lifetime I'll go to Kashi, Rameshwaram and so on and do. That is all completely wrong. We eat food every day, right? It's not that I will eat once in a year, I'll eat for my entire lifetime. We don't do that. We eat that too not once, we eat thrice or 4 times a day. When we can take care of ourselves when we are alive, the same thing has to be done for our ancestors who have given up everything, who have sacrificed a lot for our birth. So there is a lot of significance behind the Shraddha ceremony that has to be done, and that reference has been mentioned again in the Vishnu Purana. Then it is said that for 10 days, usually for Brahmins, the period of death, or you can say the sorrow, is for 10 days. For Kshatriyas, it is 12 days. For Vaishyas, it is 15 days. And for Shudras, it is 1 month. Now, this is a period that has been told, but usually today what we consider is 10 to 12 days. On the 13th day, you have the Shanti Samskara that is done. 13 days we can consider roughly. But this has been done. And it is said that every month also, like for 1 year, if you see every month we have the Samskara that is done. It should be done rather. People do shortcuts today, they do just once a year, and that also after a few years it goes, I cannot do. And there are so many reasons and excuses that are being done, but all this should not be done. All our rituals should be followed properly. Only if we do, our future generations will also do that. If the child sees that, okay, to its grandfather, its parents are doing all the rituals, tomorrow the grandson will also do the same thing. Otherwise, no, my parents only did not know, why should I do then, right? So many times what it happens is that we don't do anything, but we'll expect our children to do everything. We expect them to stay properly, do nicely. First you do, then only the child will learn, right? So this is how we are losing about all our rituals, traditions and so on. Now a second question comes. What if the child questions, why am I doing a Shraddha? I don't have an answer to give. You can give them the very good explanation that I gave you. It is like giving back to the ancestors. Because of our ancestors, we are alive today. It is for 1 year, at least once in a year, we have to give them back something. I'll give you one explanation for this. Now, when a person dies, say for example, my grandfather died. My grandfather died today. So I'll remember about him today. I'll feel very bad. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. Slowly in the course of time, my sorrow will reduce, right? Maybe the amount of grief that I'm experiencing today, maybe after a month or so, I might not experience the same grief. That doesn't mean that I'm happy. I'm still grieving. I'm still feeling sad. I'm still crying, whatever it is. But the amount of grief reduces over time. And over time, in the number of years, I get busy with my own life. I might not even remember my grandfather every day. Of course, that doesn't mean I forget him completely. On specific occasions, I do remember my grandfather. But in the course of time, how much ever close it might be, it may not be only grandparents, even parents or anyone, amount of grief reduces in the course of time as we get busy in our lives. As new things come in, new people come in, we don't remember the same person. But at least once a year, because of my grandfather, today I am alive. Because of my grandfather, my parents are there. Because of my parents, today I am there. So at least once in a year, I must remember all my ancestors. So this is the reason why you see that when we do the Shraddha ceremony, if you have listened very carefully, you will see that the Shraddha is not done only to the one person. Like say for example, it is my grandfather's Shraddha. It's not that the Shraddha, the Pindadanam is done only for the grandfather. Even for his father and his father. 3 or 4 generations it is being done. That is to signify that all our ancestors are being remembered. And so basically the Shraddha is done. Now there are many other explanations. For 1 year, the soul has to leave the body, it has to ascend in the right path. So we are offering them all kinds of materials that they need so that their journey is safe. This is all one reference. But why then we have to do it yearly? Now after a year or so, it is believed that the body, the soul is born again in some body and the relationship has ended there, right? My grandfather maybe is born in some other house now. My relationship is over, he is happy somewhere. Still then why am I doing the Shraddha? He is reborn, right? In somewhere else. He is enjoying life there maybe. Then why am I worrying now? The Shraddha, why it is done year after year, is at least once in a year for at least a few minutes, half an hour or 1 hour that we do the Shraddha. Let me remember my ancestors. So that is the reason why the Shraddha has to be done. So if tomorrow, that is the reason why all our rituals have to be performed. And if someone comes and questions, this is the answer that we can give them. Okay. Now further, chapter number 13, part 3 is, now for certain days of the month, there are certain oblations or there are certain pujas, sacrifices that were being done. For example, now, on the Amavasya day, we offer a lot of all this Shraddha. If someone dies and so on, we do a lot of puja on the Amavasya day. Then, in the months of Shravan, lot of Shiva puja. Mute yourself. Yeah, in the month of Shravan, lot of Shiva puja is being done. Then in the month of Pitru Pakshakala, that is roughly before the Ganesh festivals or so on, we have the Pitru Pakshakala, in the months of Ashada, roughly Ashada, Shravana, that's I think Ashada, that's when we have to do the Pitru Pakshakala, that's when all our ancestors have to be offered. So for certain months of the year, some periods are considered as very, very auspicious to do all these karmas. Then on occasions like the eclipse, like for example solar and lunar eclipses also, these are certain occasions where we remember our ancestors, that is one thing, and different prayers are chanted. So any prayer that we like, it is said that during the lunar and solar eclipses, the power of the prayers or the stotras that we chant during that time, it doubles and triples. That is because we have full focus, we are sitting, the energy of the sun and moon is full during the time of the eclipse. And now one more thing is said, that if one does not have enough money and resources to perform any of the rituals, be it a Jata Karma, be it some good, okay, now all of us also, a few people you see yearly or frequently, they do some pujas at their houses, right? Say, be it a Navratri festival, they'll do a small puja, or Ganesh Chaturthi, we have Ganesha at our houses, or something like that, or maybe the Ram Navami puja. But certain people, they don't do that. Maybe, I just pray whatever I know, I just chant my prayers. But maybe a Shraddha also, I will do that once in a year, that's it. So, it's not that I don't want to do, but maybe that tradition is not there in my family, or I don't have the right resources, money and so on, no people also. So, therefore it just goes away. So, in the Shastras itself, it is mentioned that if you cannot do anything, like physically you cannot, or mentally, or maybe in terms of money also you cannot afford, what you have to do is, you can just simply pray to the sun god facing the east direction, and if you do that, all our ancestors will be pleased. Now note that this is optional. When it is optional, if you cannot do any of this, like physically nothing is being possible, or materially we cannot give money, we cannot donate and so on, or in the family there are no people, only if nothing is in our favor, then we can resort to this last option, that is praying to the sun. And even if we pray to the sun, all our ancestors will be satisfied. So this is the last option when nothing works at all. But still, even then we must not give up on our rituals. That is what the Vishnu Purana tries to say. Now there are certain methods how all these oblations are done. All this we know. We call usually what we do is we call a priest to our houses, and then as he advises we do. Now in earlier times, or even in today's times, if you go to Kashi, Rameshwaram and so on, few of you might have gone there. There we have certain procedures that are being done. You have certain priests assigned for that. That is when we have rice balls and all that, and that's how the Shraddha ceremony is being done. And then most important is Brahmins have to be given food. That's the reason we call 2 or 3 priests to our houses, right? So Brahmins have to be fed food on this occasion through the Brahmins. Those Brahmins are considered to be our ancestors only, and therefore properly all the Brahmins should be fed food, and the same food should be eaten by all of us also. Now I am saying this is, some people, they have this notion in their mind that Shraddha food we cannot eat. No, it will not be tasty. It's not a hotel food or a wedding food, but not just for the sake of taste, but still some people they have a notion saying that no, I will not eat Shraddha food and all that, like it is someone else's house's Shraddha. So this is the mentality that we have, but that should not be there. Even if you go and attend someone else's Shraddha, you might not be a very close family member or so, but the food that is there should be considered as prasada. Just as we get prasada from the temple, even the Shraddha food also should be regarded as prasada and should be consumed by everyone. So this is also again mentioned. Now, in the previous times, chapter 15, part 3 Vishnu Purana talks that earlier, all this, now if you see some few Daityas, Danavas, or a few tribal community, they used to offer all, or they used to do all these sacrifices to different kinds of animal flesh. It can be of lions, horses, ram and so on, or even rabbit, mongoose, fish. So such animals are mentioned in the Vishnu Purana. But in the Kali Yuga, all these types of flesh are forbidden. Only milk, honey, rice, cereals, only this has to be offered. And then Gaya Shraddham, offering in Bihar. We have Gaya. So there if you go and do pilgrimage, if we do the Shraddha in Gaya, it is equal to, like, it is the highest form of Shraddha. That is the reason why, if you would have noted very carefully, during our house also when we do the Shraddha, the priest will chant Gaya Shraddham, Gaya Shraddham, Gaya Shraddham. Thrice he chants this, saying that the benefit of the Shraddha that we do at our houses is equal to the Shraddha being done at Gaya. So it's not that always all of us we can go to Gaya and do the Shraddha, but even if we do it at our houses, it should be equal to the Shraddha performed in Gaya. Now, it is said that earlier, now a question will come to our minds, that earlier why all kinds of animal sacrifices were being done and today why am I now doing it? Now, if you see a tribal, for a person who lives in the forest, he wants to do sacrifice, but he has to end up doing a sacrifice only with whatever he has. So his profession will mostly be hunting. So he would have hunted an animal and the same he offers as sacrifice. He is not going to get anything else in the forest. And being a part of the tribal community, he does not even know anything else. He just knows about killing animals and so on and offering them as prasada. Whereas for us people who are not tribals, who are not following the profession of hunting, even we also end up doing up animal sacrifices like this, then what is the use? I'm not telling all of you, but then still there are a few people who will argue, saying that why earlier animal sacrifices used to be done and today why it is forbidden. What is the reason for that? Or is it legal that earlier people used to do a lot of animal sacrifices? Is that not a sin, killing animals and so on? Obviously it is a sin. For that surely they will get the results of that. But even if we think from their point of view, a hunter now or a person from the tribal community is not learned like us. He will not know that killing an animal is wrong and so on. And secondly, with whatever things are available around in his surroundings, he has to do an offering. But at least he has this in mind that I have to perform a sacrifice. So with whatever he has, people used to perform the sacrifice accordingly. Today now things have changed. We don't have to live in the forest or go hunting, and therefore animal sacrifices are not being done. Now further it is said that part 3, chapter 16 and 17 end of the Vishnu Purana end with a conversation wherein the gods and demons. It is said that in earlier times both the gods and demons used to be the learners of Vedas. Both of them were learners of Vedas, and it is said that people who do not learn the Vedas, it is people who are not knowledgeable at all, they are as if they are not at all human beings. They are just a ball of flesh. That was what has been believed, and it is mentioned in the both in chapter 16 and 17. So therefore it is said that all of us, now today the Vedas are the base of all knowledge, so they have to be learned by all the people, and the different knowledges that we have in the form of Itihasas, Ramayana, Mahabharata, Puranas and so on, it has to be learned because it is the base of Indian culture, it is the basis of our culture, our own tradition. If we give up on that, then there is of no use. So therefore this has been mentioned in chapter 16, 17, same things which we are seeing today through different stories. It has been anticipated in the Vishnu Purana thousands of years back, saying that if you do not do this, you are just a ball of flesh living about on earth. So decide where you want to go in life, where you want to be. For this I'll give you a very simple example. Eating, sleeping, drinking and taking care of our stomach. These 4 activities all living creatures in this world do. Eating, all of us eat, even the roadside dog eats. Drinking, all of us drink water or anything, whatever you drink, even the roadside dog is drinking the same thing. Fetching food for oneself, we boast, right? No, throughout my life I worked in this company, I worked in that company, I was in a high post. Ultimately for what you did? For filling your stomach. Animals also, they don't work in companies, but still they also ultimately find out some way in order to fill their stomachs, right? They do find out means of finding out food, even they do that correctly. Next is taking care of my young ones or taking care of my family. We boast about here. Animals also, if you see, or rather animals or birds, if you see, they take care of their young ones still nicely than human beings. If you see in the case of birds, a male bird and a female bird, the male and female bird both will never fly out together. The female bird will always stay in the nest, only the male bird goes out and fetching food and all other things. So how those animals can do this? They cannot speak, They are not like human beings. They don't have feelings and emotions like us, but at the same time, in their own language, in their own way of expression, they ensure that they take care of their young ones rightly. So all these things are common for all the creatures, right? Then what makes us human beings different than all these creatures? Eating, sleeping, drinking, fetching for ourselves, taking care of our family, all this, all the creatures are doing in their own ways. What makes us different is learning, knowledge, something called buddhi, something called brain and intellect, and that has to be used in the right way. If you don't use that, you're just a ball of flesh, or you're just equal to all other animals. Manujaha mrigarupena chalanti. In one of the Subhashitas, it is being mentioned that in the Panchatantra, Somasharma, Panchatantra is a Sanskrit text. That is a famous Panchatantra stories that all of us would have read as kids. It is originally in Sanskrit. So that is where Soma Sharma, he mentions that. Soma Sharma is author, wherein he mentions that. Soma Sharma is the name of a character in Panchatantra. Vishnu Sharma, he was the author. So there he mentions that Manujaha or Manushyaha, men, Mrigarupena chalanti. Some men or some human beings, they just look from outside as human beings, but ultimately they are just mrigarupena, they are just animals, chalanti. They are just walking about in this world like animals. So it depends upon us what activities we do. So we must decide our life accordingly. If we are just filling our stomachs and going about here and there, then we are also equal to animals. Manujaha mrigarupena chalanti. So with this part 3 concludes of Vishnu Purana. Next is part 4. Now in part 4 again, now part 3 if you see talks about a generalized on generalized topics, like what are the different rules to be followed and so on. Now in part 4 again different dynasties are being talked about. Here we get reference even to Soma Vamsha, Surya Vamsha, Sita's Vamsha and so on. So now here first let's have a look. First is Vaivaswata Manu's lineage. Our own Manu who is there now, Vaivaswata Manvantare, we chant, right? So that is the main thing where we have to look at. So it is said that Vaivaswata Manu, he has come from Brahma. Brahma's son is Vaivaswata Manu. Further, we see that next Daksha was born. Daksha produced Aditi. Then from Aditi, Vivaswan was born. Then Manu was a son of Vivaswan. And further, he had a few sons, Ikshvaku, Nriga, Pranshu, Dishta and so on. So see, these are all few sons of Mrigu, and that's how the lineage keeps proceeding further. Now further it is said that, so the entire description of different people or different future generations of Manu has been mentioned in chapter 1. Now chapter 2 mainly talks about Ikshvaku's lineage. Ikshvaku Vamshaha, Rama belonged to this Vamsha. Now Ikshvaku, it is said that he was born from Manu, and Ikshvaku had about 100 sons. And now there is one significance for this. Rama, we say that Ikshvaku, he belonged to the Ikshvaku Vamsha as well as to the Surya Vamsha, so which is correct. It is actually both. Now Ikshvaku was one of the ancestors of Rama. In Surya Vamsha, the Surya was a son god, was a family god of Rama. So therefore, it is said that descendants of the Surya Vamsha. So that is the reason why Rama is said to be descended from Ikshvaku. He belongs to the Ikshvaku Vamsha. At the same time, he belonged to the Surya Vamsha. Now there have been many people who are a part of the Ikshvaku Vamsha. There is not just one Ikshvaku who is the ancestor of Rama. Many kings and people have been named as Ikshvaku. So in all the Puranas, we get references to Ikshvaku at many places. Further, in chapter 3, we see that chapter 3, this story of Trishanku has been repeated. Trishanku also is again a descendant of the Ikshvaku Vamsha only. Trishanku story we have already seen in Brahma Purana, Vishwamitra and Trishanku. Further, birth of Sagara. Sagara, all his ancestors. Sagara also is an ancestor of Lord Rama. So his story has been mentioned here. Further, in chapter 4, we have the reference of Sagara and the further description of Surya Vamsha. Now Sagara, he had two queens, and Sumati was the first queen, and Keshini, Sumati and Keshini, these were the two wives of Sagara. It is not Sagara, it is Sagara. Name of the king is Sagara. And they had a son. Keshini had a son, Asamanjas. His name was Asamanjas. And Sumati, she had about 60,000 sons, it is believed. Now Asamanjas, this person, Asamanjas, he was only one king in the entire Surya Vamsha who was evil minded. So apart from Rama, it is said that all the other kings, be it his own father Dasharatha, Dilipa, Aja, Raghu, or Sagara, Bhagiratha, Trishanku, Ikshvaku, and so on, they all belong to this Ikshvaku Vamsha or belong to the Surya Vamsha. So they were all great kings, and even more than Rama. It is said that in some references, Kalidasa, when he writes about Raghuvamsha, we don't get this reference in the Ramayana, but in the Raghuvamsham, why again one more name you got? You see, Raghuvamsham. Now Rama, we say that he belongs to the Raghuvamsha. Now why the entire Vamsha is called Raghuvamsha? Ikshvaku Vamsha is done, Surya Vamsha is done. Why Raghu? Now Raghu was such a great king, it is said that after Ikshvaku, people forgot Ikshvaku in the course of time and gave reference to Raghu, gave a lot of respect to Raghu, that if a king will ever survive, it has to be like Raghu Maharaja. So that's how the entire clan, entire dynasty came to be known as Raghuvamsha. And Kalidasa, a great Sanskrit poet, has written a drama called Raghuvamsha, in which he describes the qualities, in which he gives a lot of information about all the ancestors of Rama. There is not much reference about Rama because that has already been mentioned in the Ramayana. But if you want to know about the ancestors like Dasharatha, Aja, Dilipa, Raghu, and so on, we find all these kings, and the qualities of this king has been mentioned in about 4 verses in the Raghuvamsha. I will share that later on the group. These 4 Vamsha, the qualities of kings of the Raghuvamsha. So you see, like Rama, they were all like God only. Though Rama was God, he was an incarnation of Lord Vishnu, but all these other kings also, they were equal to God, or they were all very kingly people, or having a lot of kingly qualities. So here, only this one person, Asamanjas, he was very, very cruel, and he was the only one who was born in Raghuvamsha who was a very cruel king. And therefore, Asamanjas had been abandoned by Sagara. Now it is said that one person is wrong in a kingdom, instead of the whole kingdom suffering, you must abandon this one person. So Asamanjas was thrown out by his father Sagara. But what happened is that Sagara, he felt that no, I have 60,000 sons from my other wife, so one son if I abandon, nothing is going to happen. But it so happened that although 60,000 sons also, they followed the way of Asamanjas, they also turned out to be evil. So once it so happened that Sagara did not know what to do. He was very sad, thinking that I'm such a great king, all my ancestors are so great, that I've got so much of respect, I belong to the Surya Vamsha, my family preceptor is Vasishta, but in spite of all that, all my sons have gone on the evil part. What will the kingdom think of me? And so on. So he was being very worried. So there at that time, Kapila Avatara, Vishnu himself in the form of Kapila Muni comes there, and he tells Sagara that you have to do something, otherwise this problem is going to come, wherein what is the problem is all your 60,000 sons, they will cause a lot of destruction to this entire earth, and the whole world will suffer. So surely now they are going to meet with death because of their own actions. So they are going to indulge in some kind of evil ways, and that will ultimately lead to their death. So what you must do is you can perform the Ashwamedha Yaga. So an Ashwamedha Yaga was performed by Kapila, and it is said that the 60,000 princes, they were told, now though they were on the evil path, they used to obey their father. So therefore Sagara, he sent all their sons saying that now Ashwamedha Yaga, as per the rules of Ashwamedha Yaga, whenever a horse is set out, we must ensure that wherever the horse goes, there some kings, ministers and so on, they all keep following the horse. So in this case, all the 60,000 sons of Sagara, they kept on following the horse. Horse went to the netherworlds, Patala. There they found the sage sitting in deep meditation. And now what happened is that when it went to Patala, it is said that it was on earth only. But Indra Deva, he saw that, oh, all these sons are running behind, so let me play a trick on them. What he does is he paves a path, or he creates such a scenario that the horse ultimately reaches Patala. So the horse did not go by itself to Patala, that is to the netherworlds. It was running on the earth only. But Indra, he played a trick here. So now Sagara's sons felt that, so they also reached the netherworlds, and they felt that the sage who's sitting here in meditation, he is only responsible for kidnapping and abducting this snake. So saying so, they tried to abuse, they tried to hit the sage and so on. Sage Kapila, and this was a sage, this is the same Kapila who had come and told Sagara that your sons are going to do something that ultimately they are all going to die. So the sage who had told Sagara, the sage had met earlier Sagara and told the same thing. And the sage who is sitting here also is the same Kapila Muni. So just by looking at them, he opened his eyes and he flared his eyes. So all were burnt. All the 60,000 sons were burnt. And further we know that how Dilipa's son Bhagiratha. Further, all the 60 tons they burn about, and then in the later generations Bhagiratha comes in, and he used to face a lot of problems in his kingdom. So that's when he consulted a lot of priests, preceptors and so on, they said that your ancestors, they have been burnt, they are all ashes, all these ashes are still in the nether worlds, no samskara has been done to them, so that is the reason you are facing a lot of problems in your life. So now what should be done is, the only solution is you must get Ganga. Now in those days, Ganga used to be there in heaven, she used to not flow on earth. So therefore Ganga, Bhagiratha, he was responsible for bringing Ganga down to heaven. Now if directly the river flowed, the entire world, the entire earth will drown in it. So therefore Ganga, she fell on the jata of Shiva. That's when we see the Ganga event till date on Shiva's head. And because Bhagiratha was the one who was responsible for bringing river Ganga down on earth, that's why another name for Ganga is Bhagirathi, thinking that she is the daughter of King Bhagiratha. And ultimately, when the river starts flowing, it went to the nether worlds. All the ashes of Bhagiratha's ancestors, these 16,000 sons, were washed about, and that's how Bhagiratha, he completed the penance. So after Sagara, next was Dilipa. Dilipa, he could not do anything, he was a very normal king. His son was Bhagiratha, who had done this penance and everything. After Bhagiratha, there were a few more kings who lived here. Then finally Bhagiratha, Raghu came in. Now between Bhagiratha and Raghu, there are a few more kings. They are not very popular, but a few more kings like Khatvanga and Dirghabahu. Raghu's father's name has been mentioned in the Vishnu Purana. His name is Dirghabahu. Then next was Raghu, Aja and Dashratha. Then Rama story, a bit of Rama story's reference has been mentioned in the Vishnu Purana. Dashratha had 3 queens who gave birth to 4 sons, Rama, Lakshmana, Bharata, Shatrughna. So in short, the Ramayana story has been mentioned here in chapter 4 of Ramayana. So the entire Ramayana has been mentioned here in just one chapter, and further till Lavakusha, that is till the Uttar Ramayana also it has been mentioned, and even the further lineage of Kusha also has been mentioned in the Vishnu Purana. Now why only of Kusha, why not of Lava? It is because Kusha is the elder son of Rama, and Ayodhya, the kingdom of Ayodhya, was handed over to Kusha after Rama. So after Kusha we have many kings who come in, and it goes about till the Mahabharata times. That's when the lineage of Ayodhya, it kept on increasing. So the lineage of kings after Rama, Kusha and so on, that also has been mentioned in detail in chapter 4, part 4 Vishnu Purana. Next, chapter 5, Nimi. Now who is Nimi? Ikshvaku's son was Nimi. Now Nimi Vamsham, Janaka belonged to this, Sita belonged to this Nimi Vamsha. Now as I told you, there are many Ikshvakus. One Ikshvaku belonged to the line of Rama, another Ikshvaku belonged to the line of Nimi also. So that's when this Nimi Raja has been mentioned. Now here if you see in the Vishnu Purana, not much has been mentioned in detail. Like you will not have a in detail storyline. Only you can say like in brief it has been mentioned that Nimi is one of the, because the Ramayana reference has been mentioned of Rama's ancestry, even Sita's ancestors also have been mentioned in short. So that is Nimi Avatara. Further, Soma Vamsha has been mentioned in chapter number 6. Soma Vamsha is the Vamsha of the Pandavas. That is a Mahabharata reference. Brahma had a son Atri. Again Soma Vamsha starts from Brahma. He had a son Atri. Then his son was Chandrama. Chandrama is nothing but the moon god. Soma, he had performed a Rajasuya Yajna, and that's when the moon, he kidnapped Tara, who was the wife of Brihaspati, and both the moon and Tara together, they begot a son, that is Buddha. So from Buddha, the children who are born to Buddha, they are all a part of this Soma Vamsha. So Soma Vamsha, though it is started from Chandrama, that is from the moon god, he had not, basically the son that was born to them, he had actually kidnapped Brihaspati's wife. So Tara, her name was Tara. So he was not originally married to Tara. So the child whom Tara had conceived, that is this Buddha, and from Buddha onwards, Pururava, Ila and so on. So this is how the lineage of the Soma Vamsha goes about. Further, this Soma Vamsha, it goes about wherein In chapter 7, we see the birth of sages Jamadagni and Vishwamitra. Jamadagni and Vishwamitra. Now, this Pururava, who was the first king of the Soma Vamsha, it is believed, he had 6 sons Ayu, Amavasu, and so on. Like this, there were 6 sons. Then Jahanu was a son. Jahanu, the river. Again, Jahanu, the sage, is said to be the father of river Ganga. That's why another name for river Ganga is Janhavi. So now what is the story of that? Once it so happened that after now we saw Bhagirath was responsible for bringing Ganga on earth. But now that Ganga was brought on earth, it's a water body, right? So she can keep flowing here and there. Like we cannot stop water. When there is a leakage, pipe leakage or something at our houses, how much ever we try, we cannot stop water from going about anywhere. Water keeps flowing. So once it so happened that Jahanu, this river, he saw that Ganga was entering even his hermitage, and his whole hermitage was sinking. It had drowned in Ganga's water, and he, with his yogic powers, he drank all the water of the Ganga. But then all sages come and pray, and that's how the Ganga again comes out. So because she went into this mouth of Jahanu and then she came out, that's how she got the name of Janhavi, and she is revered as the son of, as a daughter of the sage Jahanu. Further, you have description of different Vamshas, different family dynasties, that is the Kashya Vamsha. Kashya Vamsha. Now, Kashya Vamsha also had a lot of kings who were there. They are also, you can consider the future generations of the Soma Vamsha, after Pururava, Ila, and so on. Further, chapter 10 talks about the tale of Yayati. Yati, Yayati, Sanyati, Ayati. Nahusha. There was a king Nahusha. Now in the Soma Vamsha, Surya Vamsha, if you see, there have been many kings. But out of that, a few people or a few kings are quite popular. Like for example, Raghu, Dilipa, Aja, Dasharatha, and so on. So we know their stories. We have a lot of mention, lot of reference that has been mentioned in the Vishnu Purana. So out of this Soma Vamsha also, there was a famous king called Nahusha. He had a lot of sons. Out of that, the most popular was Yayati. Yayati's son was Puru. So here again from chapter 11, next 11 onwards, Yadu Vamsha starts. So these are again different family dynasties that have been mentioned, starting from Surya Vamsha, Soma Vamsha, Puru's Vamsha. Now these are all, if you see Pururava or even the different Vamshas that I told you, Kashya Vamsha, Yadu Vamsha, Puru Vamsha, they are all after a particular king. For example, now Pururava, he gave birth to many sons, or Nahusha, he gave birth to many sons. One of them was Yayati. Yayati, he gave birth to a son Puru, and the Vamsha, after him the family name changed. Now though they were all kings who belonged to the Soma Vamsha only, but still after like many generations together, after many generations had passed about, the dynasty changed its name. Like we have in the case of Ikshvaku. Rama, he belonged to the Ikshvaku Vamsha, but after Raghu came in, it became Raghu Vamsha. So in the course of time, depending on the king's greatness, many times the family dynasty, name of the family dynasty changes. So we need not get confused. It is the same Soma Vamsha, but after maybe a very famous king or a popular king, the name of the dynasty has changed. Then we have a few more lineages that have been mentioned. Chapter 12 and chapter 13, part 4 deal with Kraushta Vamsha. Now there is nothing, no stories or so that has been mentioned in all these Vamshas. Just the names of different kings has been mentioned here. So with this, part 4 of the Vishnu Purana ends here. Now part 5 of Vishnu Purana mainly talks about Krishna Leela stories. Soma Vamsha has been mentioned, so Krishna's story started. Part 5 Vishnu Purana, first chapter, talks about the story of Puru Vamsha, and in the line of Puru we have a few kings like Janamejaya, Dushyanta, and so on. So the first story, chapter 1, part 5 Vishnu Purana, deals with the story of Dushyanta and Shakuntala. Shakuntala, Dushyanta, famous Kalidasa's play Abhignana Shakuntala. So it deals with the same story that has been mentioned here. So again, a few stories from the Puru Vamsha. They are again lineage, it is from the Soma Vamsha only, but because of the king Puru, his lineage was called as Puru Vamsha. Further was the Kuru Vamsha that came in. Now this Kuru Vamsha has got nothing to do with the Kauravas, Pandavas and so on. That is different. This is Kuru Vamsha, but it starts with Shantanu, and this Shantanu is different from the Shantanu of the Mahabharata fame. There are been two kings who are popular. So in chapter 2, part 5 Vishnu Purana, we get reference to a Shantanu, a king Shantanu who belonged to the Kuru Vamsha. Though he belongs to the Kuru Vamsha, he is not a part of the Mahabharata fame. This is another Shantanu. Further, we see that this Shantanu in the same chapter, chapter 2, part 5, originally first we get reference in the same chapter, we have reference to two Shantanus. The first Shantanu was different and the second Shantanu is from the Mahabharata fame. So why I am telling you this is, do not get confused here. When you read the original Purana, you will find that in chapter 2, part 5, we have reference to two Shantanus. One Shantanu is different and the second Shantanu also, the mention of both the kings, both the Shantanus has been made together of the Mahabharata fame. That's when through his second wife Satyavati, he had two sons, Chitrangada, Vichitravirya. Chitrangada was killed by a Gandharva. Vichitravirya was married to Ambika, Ambalika. And that's how further we have the lineage, Dhritarashtra, Pandu, the Pandavas, Kauravas and so on. So the Mahabharata story has been mentioned in brief in chapter 2, Vishnu Purana. Further, chapter 3 starts with Krishna Leela stories, incarnation of Lord Krishna, Vasudeva, Devaki and so on. So the 8th child of Vasudeva. Now chapter 3 directly starts with this context wherein Vasudeva and Devaki, after their marriage, they are going on the chariot, and that's when the heavenly voice is heard by Kamsa, wherein it is said that the 8th child of Devaki will kill you. So from there the story starts about, and ultimately the 8th son of Devaki was born in Gokula. So Vasudeva goes, he gives the child to, goes to Gokula, places, gives it to Nanda and Yashoda. So this all has been mentioned in chapter 3, part 5 Vishnu Purana. Further, Yogamaya, how Yogamaya comes in the womb. Balarama's womb is transferred to Rohini. How Yogamaya comes in the womb of Devaki, that has been mentioned in chapter 4. So today time is almost up. We will have a look at all this in detail next week. Chapter 5 deals with Putana Moksha, the first demoness who came and tried to give poisoned milk to Krishna. She was killed in chapter number 5. So with this, now all this has to be looked at in detail. Yes.
You talked about Yayati. There is another Yayati also who is related to Shukracharya.
Yes, correct. Yeah. So here with this, all these things we have to look at in detail today. Time is up. So I just gave you a gist about the future chapters that are there. So with part 5 Vishnu Purana, we will start in the next class. So today time is up. We will conclude here. We meet again next Saturday.